If I can get my computer working.
Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Rochester Downtown Development Authority for Wednesday, January 2023. Madam Recording Secretary, the roll, please.
Chairman Giovanelli.
Present.
Mayor Bixson.
Here.
Tanya Karsten.
Here.
Chris Johnson. Lisa Germani Williams. Eric Diana.
Present.
Bob Bloomingdale.
Here.
Paul Haig. Roger Knapp.
Yes.
Tony LaPuma.
Yes.
Marilyn Trent.
Here.
Lisa Swiftney.
Here.
Don Sinkowitz.
Here.
Kristen Ferraro.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everyone. Happy New Year. We haven't seen each other in a while. We sort of passed on December, which was sort of bittersweet, but it was good to have everybody. I'm sure we needed more time for presents and getting ready for Santa, so that was good. So it's nice to see everybody's smiling face. Hope you all had a great holiday. First thing on the agenda here is the approval of the meeting minutes. We have two this evening to approve. The first is the regular meeting minutes from November 9th, 2022, and then the closed session meeting minutes from the same date.
So moved.
Motion by the mayor, support.
Aye.
Support by Eric Diana. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Fantastic. Audience comments? We'll wait. You guys are on the agenda, so don't have to worry about that. All right, very good. Liaison report. City Council, Councilperson Trent, good evening.
Happy New Year, everyone. So we've got a few council meetings since we haven't been here together. On the 12th, there was a presentation from Pat McKay, the Executive Director of Van Heusen, regarding the archiving that he's been providing for the city of Rochester, and they've been working very, very hard at that. So he also gave a presentation of all the other services that he does, and I'm very thankful for Pat McKay and the Van Heusen farm that he runs. We also have good news. We got a grant award from Representative Slotkin's office for $797,000. You may have heard of that. That news travels fast for the All Abilities Park. And then another grant, because one wasn't enough, a second one came along for the Memorial Grove Park for $300,000. Then we got to get a sneak peek, and you guys can too. All you have to do is go on over to the city website and download the packet, and you can see the type of play sculptures and landscaping that they are looking at installing. It was rather exciting to see the new types of play equipment. They've changed since I was a little girl, and since my other two girls were little girls. And this one, because it's all abilities, has all these extra, types of equipment in there, and it's rockers and a lot of sensory things and sensory rails and rain wheels and things that I haven't seen before.
Fun.
So then, we had a Roxy public hearing for the liquor license that had been made available, which was a good addition for them, as they didn't know it was available, and now they have one. It was just getting a bistro. And good news, the City Beautiful Commission has a newly appointed person named Julia Johnson, and we're looking forward to her coming to the February meeting. She's highly credentialed.
Best kind.
That's kind. She's come to help.
Excellent.
We had a strategic planning and SWOT workshop. It was held on Saturday, on January 14th, with the directors, council, staff, and it was open to the public, and it went really well. We learned a lot, and there was a lot of some little activities that we did, little dots and SWOT, and talking about the future of Rochester and all the things we can do with our budget. And the budget is balanced. There was a joint meeting on Monday, January 16th, with Planning Commission and the City Council as a workshop to discuss the master plan and zoning to be codified into the zoning ordinances within the next month or so. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for that report. Any questions for Councilperson Trent? Nice work as usual. Council is always stepping ahead. The grants are always nice. It's always good to get that. And this will be a great addition to the park for sure. I did happen to see that, and it was some pretty cool stuff. So it certainly has changed since our kids were little. So, and totally changed since we were little. So, right. So,
exactly. Exactly.
We had monkey bars 80 feet off the ground on asphalt. So.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And everybody survived.
Yeah, 100%. We're all here. We're all
smarter than ever.
right.
Have you seen that
Well,
one?
thank you so much for that report. We appreciate it. Chamber of Commerce, Lisa Swiftney.
Yep.
Welcome.
Well, since our last meeting, we had the annual Christmas parade. Went off with virtually without a hitch. We do needed to have people walk a little faster, but that was all right. And then the chamber is actually really growing. We are averaging between 15 and 20 members every single month.
That's awesome.
So that has been really good since the new leadership has taken over. Upcoming events, we have one ribbon cutting, but it's kind of out of the area coming up for the next couple weeks. The Community Outlook Breakfast, and I know Christy sent out an email about the DDA has a table, but the Community Outlook Breakfast is February 27th. And then for anybody interested in mingling with any of the chamber members, we do have a coffee talk coming up on February the 10th, and that's at the Community House.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that update. Any questions for our chamber?
I would just like to say that I was walking extremely fast, and I think it was other cities that were walking slower.
Yes.
Just saying.
We had to take some other city council members from another city and move them up through with our golf carts,
Got it.
so.
Right up on them with a 4x4 golf cart. Let's go, people.
Wow, I
Jump on, we had to move you up, yes.
I didn't realize there was punitive situations out there. I'll have to.
Amen.
No, they were just lagging, and they were several blocks behind.
Oh,
and
dear.
Their peoples were way up there.
Yeah,
So we
Donald.
had to jump them on the golf cart and
Wow.
get them back in sync.
Amen. It's got chop, chop, chop.
That's right.
It was
Got things
great
to do.
for those of us who needed the break so that people could walk through to get to the event they were coming to.
Oh, dear, yes. Well,
If
there's always a
somebody
benefit.
scheduled an event this day of the parade,
Duly noted. Just, for 2 years, we did not have a parade, and so some people forget. So, sorry.
But the good news is it all worked out.
it did,
out.
it did, so,
Whoever that was.
Fantastic.
Figured it out.
that's right,
100%.
that's right.
All right, well, thanks a ton for your update. We really appreciate it, and nice to see you, and Happy New Year. Historical Commission, Don Sinkowitz, welcome.
Nice to see everyone after the holidays. The last Historical Commission meeting was at the beginning of December, and at that meeting, we set the schedule for 2023. It'll be the fourth Thursday, as it has been in the past, except for around the holidays where it gets shoveled around a little bit for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. Starting this month, things start to get busy again because we have the coloring book distribution for celebrating Founder's Day, which is on, this year, it's on March 12th. We'll distribute the coloring books probably about 3 weeks ahead of time to the second grade teachers, so they have time to distribute them to their children across 17 schools this year, as in the past. As I said, Founder's Day will be on March 12th at the museum. And then, of course, we're starting to get ready for the Heritage Festival, which is on May 27th and 28th of Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any questions for our historical liaison? Seeing none, thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Principal Shopping District, Madam Director.
Yes, Paul is out of town, so he asked me to pinch hit for him. So the PSD held their goals and objectives on the 4th of this month, went through all of the events that they did this past year, and they're making a few changes. The most notable will be both Junk in the Trunk and Thursday night markets are going to be merged and reimagined into more of an upscale crafting event, I guess is the best way that I can put it. Thursday night market, we had great vendors, but never really got that critical mass in terms of attendees. Junk in the Trunk had the attendees, but the level and quality of items was true to the name and slid over time. So we're going to see if we can merge those two and make it into something that has both good vendors and good traffic. So that will be coming forward shortly. They're working on a name and some concepts that'll be presented at their February PSD meeting. There's a lot of discussion about the holiday time at PSD. There were two new events that they put in this year, the Snowman Stroll, which is the public art event that's concluding this weekend, and then the Pancakes and PJs fundraiser over at the Fire Hall. Both were well attended. We've gotten great response on the Snowman Stroll, so PSD has directed staff to put those both into the budget for this year as well. Gotcha. So barring any issues, which we've already run into, when the fiberglass has gone up, because originally they were purchased 2 years ago, but then there's a shortage. fill in the blank here of all these different issues, but the prices have gone up substantially, so we're gonna.
You only get 2 circles?
You only get 2 circles. They're going to be smaller stack, yes. So we're working on that, seeing if we might have some, got to do what you got to do, man. And then last but not least, Dancing in the Street, which actually, Mayor, I think you'll be very interested to know that we have booked Your Generation,
Oh, dear, yeah.
who the mayor's been asking for. We booked Your Generation for that event. If anyone has been to any of the Vertical concerts at the Royal Park, that was one of the bands that they featured heavily. Great, we're very excited about that. Also, the reason it was discussed at Goals and Objectives is that there has been a request from a few restaurants downtown to add alcohol sales at Dancing in the Street. So that's something that the board had a lot of discussion about and has directed us to work with Chief Schuttenhelm to figure out the logistics of how that might work at Dancing in the Street. So to be continued, but that's something that is going to be worked on as well.
Interesting. Yeah, so that would be the corridor or whatever, I can't remember what they call it.
So since we don't have social districts here in Rochester, yeah, what we would have to do is figure out a way to have it in a certain area. See, Chris Kringle, you probably don't realize that we have alcohol in the street there, but with all of the tents, it actually makes a natural barrier, and then we have lots of Christmas decor to funnel out to the entrance, so you don't realize it's actually fenced in.
Gotcha.
Whereas Dance in the Street, it's a big, wide-open summer street, so we're trying to figure out the best way to do that and have it look aesthetically pleasing and still appropriate, that liquor control would approve it.
Yeah.
But we're talking with Chief to see how we can best achieve that.
Well, that would be fun, and it would make it more fun, obviously, so.
Yes.
For a group of people, for sure, so.
Yes, and then Foodie February starts next month, and then Deck Art Registration also starts February 1st.
Cool.
And that is
PSD's on
everything.
top of it. So we've got numbers to work with, so they're all.
Yes, so PSD is going to council the same time that we are for DDA. So February, we're bringing back things like the Dancing Street, Snowmen, all the numbers. They're going to go through everything, and then they meet first week of March, where they'll approve a draft budget. That'll then get sent up to city council,
we'll
and
try
then we'll
and
be
track
right
with
behind.
those
Yeah,
guys.
we'll be right in lockstep with them.
All right, very good. Fantastic, thanks for the update. Any questions for Christie on PSD? All righty, Roo, marching forward. I love these fast meetings, although,
It's going to slow down around B.
I know, it will. Well, yeah, anytime I get you involved, that's exactly what happens.
Sorry about that.
But no, it's good. It's important, we got to do it. Love Local Rochester donation, the Italian happening event, Madam Director.
Yes, so if anyone has been in the park the last few summers, there has been a new event that's come, it was twice now or 3 times? 4, I'm behind, sorry. 4 times where these fabulous Italian cars are in the municipal park, and it's been very well attended. And the last few years, they've made a donation to both Pink Creek Center for the Arts and to the DDA. And so I wanted to invite the representatives here that I may or may not know. This is my dad, Jim Pollock. So Dad, if you wanted to come up. Thought it'd be nice since with COVID and everything, he never got to come do a formal presentation, so I figured we could get a picture, and then we're going to do a
100%,
press
yeah.
release, and anyway, but
We'll take a couple and just
but
catch up, right?
feel free to go to the microphone and just talk a little bit about the event and all that.
Well, this is, the Italian cars are rolling art. Tony, you and I have talked about it before, and it's just a great event for Rochester. It's a great spot for it. We had to move it this year to July because it would have conflicted with the auto show, and then it rained, and talked with the police chief and decided we're going to move it to October rather than tear up the park. But every year that we've done it, we've been able to get sponsorship and registration and give money back to the Rochester community. Part of it's the DDA, the other part of it's Pink Creek Center for the Arts. Over the past 4 years, including this year, each organization has received close to $15,000. And this year's contribution to both the DDA and the Pink Creek Center for the Arts is $3,250.
Fantastic.
So, and I was explaining to Ben that there is one thing that we do on that Sunday at 2 o'clock. Everybody revs their engines for 5 minutes, and they're Italian cars. What can I say?
That's the only reason I would come, just to hear that. So.
You got to come for Saucy Joe's Italian food truck
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and the gelato.
Yeah, that's totally. All right, well,
No.
you're speaking my language, so at any rate, but thank you so much for that, and do want to do some,
Oh, what's the date for
Yeah.
this year's event?
July 23rd
23rd.
is the date. I've got to get the
Okay.
paperwork in.
it's all right, we know people.
It's a proposed date, yes.
You know a few.
So, but yeah, so thank you, Alyssa.
Yep, okay. All right, so Dad, if we can have you come up here, we're gonna get a photo so we can put that out.
All right.
I was hoping like a giant check.
You know, I looked into it, but it was, yeah, it was like on The Office, it was gonna cost us more for the checks.
Yeah, right, exactly. Photoshop. Adobe. Right, Photoshop.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got enough pictures with Christie?
Oh, I moved over too.
So I moved over there.
Oh, yes, those would be helpful.
Thank you.
Oh, those are my favorite kind of agenda items, so feel free to come back every meeting if you want. I appreciate it. It's fantastic. And then, you know, it just speaks volumes to our community and the folks that are involved and constantly give back. There's nothing taken for granted, and it's always an embarrassment of riches, so we're grateful for that. All right, next up is the, probably the one's going to take the longest this evening. It's going to be DDA goals and objectives discussion. I sent you guys an email kind of as a primer for it to get us thinking about it. I asked Christy to put together a little bit of a, sort of a list of things that we've been kind of thinking about. So she'll run, the queen of PowerPoint is going to go through and run through
Yes.
that real quick. So, Madam Director.
Sure. So in your packet, what I did is I did a summary. I'll get up there in a second. I've got something fancy for that. But over the months of October and November, we had different DDA committees presenting their scope of work and projects that they wanted to talk about at goals and objectives. And so that was in your packet. Just going down briefly, business development, they had talked about the small business incubator and or accelerator, the holiday expo, and business workshops and trainings. And then Site Development Committee talked about the Front Porch Project, which is going to be in my deck that I'll do in a minute. The Depot Plaza redevelopment, that's the plaza that's outside Catching Fireflies on University, with the big Christmas tree that we don't use anymore. Lions Park improvements, that's the one that's on the way to the Royal Park behind the new Frank Rewald building. Planning for future repairs of the wayfinding signs in the district, which is more maintenance issue, but was talked about. And then improved trail connections with downtown. So those are the ones that were talked about in October, November. We skipped December, and in speaking with Ben today, I sent him a few thoughts, and I didn't know when he wanted to go over them, and he said, how about tonight? So here we go. I
Well,
asked him,
we got to get going. So
Yes.
the missing December turns out to be, while it was great, you know, I think for everybody to get rid of family, from our business standpoint, we lost a little bit of momentum on this, so I want to try and get that caught back up tonight.
we're going to get it. I believe in us. Okay. So what Ben and I were talking about, I sent him an email just sort of as, I called it my laundry list of thoughts, because I agree that we have lost a little bit of momentum, because over the last couple years, we've been doing exactly what we should have been doing, which is supporting the community, supporting the businesses, doing everything we can to keep things moving along. And that's fine, and it really put us into more of a reactive mode, I guess was the best way that I could put it. Problem came up, we figured it out, knocked it out of the park, moved on to the next thing. We still managed to do all of our capital projects, which is great. We did all of our maintenance projects, kept on top of the light poles, all of those things. But at a certain point, it's time to start moving forward. I think that we can all agree, generally speaking, that the last couple of years are finally in the rear view. And maybe this is our moment that we can start talking about things that we've talked about in the past, maybe a few new things, a few things that had started and stopped. So I just put together a brief deck of what I had sent to Ben today, and I'm hoping that this might just kind of spur some ideas and discussion, that then at the next agenda item, when we set the goals and objectives meeting, everyone can have this as a primer, that we start talking about it, and then we can go from there. So having said that, of course, you had to know that the front porch was going to be at the top of this. And essentially, we have to decide if this is a no or a go. That doesn't mean that we have the money to do it right this second, but we need to decide in concept, is this something that we're going to spend time on or not? And as we said, it's a place to gather, it's a place to make memories, and it's going to be our place. It's a place that our community has asked us over 2 visioning sessions now, that they want a place to gather. They want an expanded farmer's market. They want these place-making type things. They want a passive space and an active space. They want it programmed. They want to have just some place to go and sit and see their neighbors. They want to enjoy the farmer's market in an updated setting. So I think one of the things that I really want to talk about at goals and objectives is front porch, yes or no. And this is for the physical, the town square, front porch, whatever you want to call it. And just to kind of give you some reminder, some of the things, these are some of the drawings. That was the overall, so just to orient you, Third Street is at the top of the screen, so that would be north. And then looking in to the market right there. Some of the things that we had talked about is incorporating public art with the unique porch swing concept. Talked about a seating area. Talked about a splash pad, which I know is something that has been asked for in the city multiple times. Tivoli lights to give it that nice atmosphere. Has to be a Christmas tree, have you met me? So we needed that, but overall, it's a space that would have mixed paving materials. It would have active and passive spaces, as I said. It'd be a place to hold our events so we don't have to keep shutting down streets and inconveniencing people. It would be a place that we would create. So I think of anything we've talked about over the last couple years, we've started these discussions back in 2018, 19. We need to make a decision if we're going to pursue or not, because there are a lot of opportunities coming forward. A lot of grants are now placemaking grants. People have found over the years, the grants that have been the last 2 years have been a lot more Band-Aid things, more about staffing, more about health issues, all those kinds of things. Perfect, we needed all those things then. Now is coming to that next level of placemaking. Oakland County right now is working on something with their Board of Commissioners, hopefully bring something forward that would be exclusively for Main Street Oakland County communities, of which we are one. And it would be placemaking based. There's a lot of discussion about things for markets and incubators and things like that. So if we are going to do something, we at least have to get it to the point that we would know prices, that we would have basic sketch and have, as Nick likes to call it, that glamour shot that we can market, because you never know how many times we're going to come across opportunities that we might miss out if we don't have those items. In addition to that, as Nick always says, you never know who might show up and be inspired by what we put up there and maybe inspire them to want to do something much like they did with the 9/11 memorial over at the fire department. So that's one thing I want us to be thinking about at goals and objectives. But beyond that, many of you might remember that the front porch started as the front porch project. So the actual market itself and the town square was part and parcel to that. But this really came down to a philosophy that we had talked about, that when we talk about community, that we're at the level now when we do our visioning sessions that we have a 97% occupancy rate. We have good relations, we have good housing, and all the things that make a community what it needs to be. But we want to invest in that community, and that means wellness. That's one thing we're hearing a lot about, especially on a national level, people talking about wellness as a keystone of anything that is happening in community. Obviously, the community at large itself, and then people in place. And these were our 4 pillars that we had put forward of what the Front Porch Project was about. Many things that we've done actually hit on those points when we did the Front Porch Stories, which Tony and Bill were our very first ones, so it's probably my favorite of all time. The Love Local brand, before it became Love Local Rochester, Love Local was a part of the Front Porch Project list of to-dos, and so when everything happened back in 2020, I went back to this presentation and found that one piece, and that's what inspired us to move forward into the Love Local brand. So there's a lot of things we've been doing within this, and then the pop-up, in there we had Art in Unexpected Places, which is where now the Magical Mural Tour came from, and No Filter, and things like that. So there've been pieces that we were able to pull off during the Front Porch Project, but I'd really like, if, whether or not we commit to the town square, I feel like we should circle back to this, because this seemed to resonate with people. I think it's a good set of pillars that we need to be working with for future planning, because there's only so many light poles we can put up. There's only so many things that we can do that are maintenance items. I think that there's more we can do with community in the last couple of years with how we've kind of creeped out into the neighborhoods with Neighborhood Light Fight and the murals and No Filter and the birthday club and all the different things that we did with the residents. We found that people have an appetite for this that wasn't being fulfilled, and it's something that we were able to fill that void. People have liked that, and I feel like that's something that we could continue to do to invest in our people and our place. Art downtown is something else. Again, this is sort of an accidental thing. Everybody knows that I'm big on art in town. I think it's important. I think it resonates with people of all ages. I think that any city worth its salt should have art as a part of its community. We don't have a lot of art. We're getting more. We have now the DIR mural downtown, the wonderful mural that's in the park that was done by City Beautiful. We have pieces. There's some bronzes over by the library, but I don't think it's really one of those things. I hate when I go to other towns and I see their murals and they make me feel like jealous. I don't want to be jealous of other people's towns. I want to have what we want for Rochester. So over the last couple of years, because there weren't a lot of things that we could do in person, art sort of
rose to that level. So deck art in the middle, which we've been doing for several years, we're up to over 400 artists now from all over the Metro Detroit area that become a part of that. Magical Mural Tour will be in its fourth season this year. And we have more and more participation every year, putting those both in the park as well as downtown. You can't walk by when we're doing installation, Bob knows. People stopping us, asking about them, people asking us if we're the artists. Bob says yes, it's fine. And then last but not least, on the far right, our snowman stroll. That's Sam the Snowman, if anybody hasn't seen him. He's my favorite. But the amount of attention that we've gotten for the snowman stroll, the first day that the snowmen were out, the Detroit News was following us around, snapping photos of them, and they did a whole photo essay of them. Every time we post, our social media is off the charts. People love them. I love seeing all the photos people are posting with them, with their arms up. It's a thing. But it's those simple things with the art that have engaged more people into our town, and I feel like if there was an opportunity to actually, again, put together a plan. It's not something that I think would cost money. I think it's something that we already have the baseline. When we did our last visioning session with Ben Muldrow, that was one of his questions. And we did the maps of where would you like to see art in our community? And we already have that. So if we take that, pull that out and start putting together a loose plan of these are areas of interest of where we could do art. And it doesn't mean that it has to always be a mural. It can be sculpture, it can be a lot of things. Art takes many forms. But if we actually had a long-term vision of these are the areas and these are the things, again, it opens it up that we could fund some things ourselves. Other organizations might see what we're doing and want to invest in those things. And then also opens up, because placemaking also equates to art. A lot of those grants do have an art component. But if we have something in place, a plan that we can point to, it's a lot easier and more efficient to go after a grant than just, oh, it'd be cool if we had art in town. Not as compelling on an application. Whereas if we have a whole plan, I can whip out a map and here's things. They like that very much. So I think art would be something that we need to be talking about. Okay, this is one I've been talking to Ben about, our vision statement. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with it. Vision statements, for anyone who's familiar, for a corporate, it should be a simple statement of our long-term goals and how we're going to get there. And maybe like every 5 to 10 years, depending on how goals are accomplished, we should be revising them. This is our vision statement. Allow me to read it to you. Rochester is a regional downtown shared by our residents and those of our neighboring communities. All are welcome and encouraged to enjoy our classic Main Street with businesses designed to satisfy diverse shopping, blah, blah, I can't. We designed the Pontiac Aztec of vision statements, a tricked out version. It's bad, you guys.
Yeah.
So I think that once we get through other things, we get through goals and objectives, we get on a path, I think it would be time for us to revise the vision statement, not by committee, small group.
Yeah.
Small group. To put together something that is brief and concise, that speaks to our mission, but also lets people know where we're going and where we're trying to get to and how we're gonna get there. Basically, if you read this, we just wanna be everything to everybody. Cool. I think we can do better than that. So that's another little project, not necessarily for goals and objectives, but just in general, once we get on a path, I feel like, oh God, it's so bad.
That last
So,
sentence is
it's too much.
epic.
It's all too much. I just can't even.
It also has a split infinitive in it, which.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's my big problem with it, Eric, for
Yeah.
sure. The split infinitive, I'm like, really? Yeah. So there you go.
Have it.
Yes.
It's
Can't do
done.
it.
Can't do it. Yep, there you
No
go.
way.
So, yes. So I just never want to see that again. So that is that. So there's the Aztec. But one of the other.
Is that like city property or?
That is like a tricked out Aztec. I tried to find the ugliest Aztec I could find because Aztecs by nature are not cute, but I really had to find an ugly one. I feel like I was successful.
I almost feel like you could get a collector for that, like. just
You know,
for-
I looked, there was a 2005 Aztec available for $1,900.
Well, we'll get on Marketplace. It's not in the budget though.
It seems fine. Yeah, that'll be the DDA mobile. I'll just drive every event. Yeah, it's perfect. So these are a lot of goals. Some are short-term, some are long-term. But one other thing that I want everybody to start thinking about is 2030. You may wonder why I'm saying think about 2030. 2030 is when the DDA sunsets. For anyone who's not familiar with the way that DDAs work, cities set them for a finite period and then they can extend them. Ours was extended, gosh, it had to be about, was it Nick, 10 years? No, it was a long, long time ago. They extended us to 2030. Originally, we were supposed to expire in 2010, and they gave us another 20 years. So 2030 is coming up. So I'm not saying that we need to go for any type of extension at this moment, but I feel like if we are going to go with an extension, which I feel like we should, we need to have a plan, we need to have a vision, we need to have a bunch of goals to show what we would do if we were to exist beyond 2030. And I think that's important. We're looking at some of these long-term projects that there are bonds that are now 7-year bonds that we could get. There's lots of weird little nuances of things that if we were to expire, who's gonna own them? Who is going to manage them? Which might inform what we might take on. So I don't wanna go down that rabbit hole necessarily, but I feel like everyone needs to have that at the forefront because 2030 is gonna come faster than you think. And I wanna make sure that if we are all in on some of these projects, that we recognize that there's a lot of work that has to be done to make sure that we are proving that we are valuable and an asset to the city to allow us to continue to do the good work that we've been doing over the last few years. As I've been saying to Ben, I feel like, and I don't think I mentioned this to you, it's the 40th anniversary of the DDA this year. Little fun fact. But I feel like at any time, and I've been here, as Stuart will tell you, longer than most, longer than Stuart, I feel like we have the strongest DDA board, volunteers and team that we've had ever. And if there's any group that could tackle any or all of these projects, it's this group. And I feel like it's our moment. So, Eric, hi.
Would you, for that would you want to form like a subcommittee, like the 2030 subcommittee or something like that?
I don't know if we need to do
So
that.
it's actually more of a function of you have to be, in order, there's a criteria that the state has under the TIF, right? One of which is there's got to be a purpose for it, and it can't be infinite, it has to be finite. So that was, council, whenever it was extended, it said 2030 is the sunset date. So we're kind of at our China-Hong Kong moment right now, right? So it's like, it's going to come quick, to Christie's point, but in order to continue on, one of the key criteria is there has to be active, you just can't collect money under the TIF and do nothing with it. There has to be a specific plan. And to Christie's point, we need to be able to show the value that's being created by the DDA. So right now, I mean, it's not, anything can happen in Lansing, we have no idea. But as it stands right now, absent any other action, 2030 is, so we either have to decide, what these particular things are and start planning for them now. So when that sneaks up on us quick, I don't know if I'll be here. I might be, who knows? Well, let's see, some math.
Promises have been made. I'm just
Well,
saying.
I don't know, we'll see, but it's all up to the future councils, who they decide. But the point is that without a plan, there's really no reason for the DDA to exist. So in order, under the TIF, we have to have specific purpose and intention, be intentional about the monies that we spend. So that's kind of what Christie's getting at.
Yeah.
So,
And-
Mr. Chairman, if I'm understanding you correct, per the state, we have to have a purpose, but the city renews the,
That's correct.
okay, all right.
Correct.
The city basically adopts the TIF plan. So this is what happened in 1983 that Christie's talking about, is that, back in that recession, which was brutal, when the DDA was first created, which, Rogers was key part of, actually. The idea is that you're taking this to invest in the district, to grow the district, right? And obviously, the results are crystal clear of how that's gone over the course of the last 40 years. The point here is that now we're at a point where we need to have something, a feather in our cap showing this is what our intention is to go forward. And it may take longer than 7 years. The intent here is if it's a long-lived plan, that it's intentional and there's value there. But, it's up to whoever's going to be on council back in 7 years hence. And I can't get in my DeLorean right now and see, what's going to happen so we can start planning. But my role as a member of this board is to try and do everything I can to perpetuate its existence to the extent that it makes sense. And like I said, nobody here will likely be around, well, you may, but, to be making this decision, but we need to make sure we're setting future councils and future DDA boards up for, to have good, decision-making, good information for decision-making.
If I could build on something that Ben alluded to, there was a move in Lansing several years ago to actually dissolve DDAs. It stemmed from back when the DIA and zoo millage was passed. The legislation was very poorly written, and it allowed existing TIFs to still capture funds and to capture the assessments. So Oakland County, when it came to them, DDAs could have captured that DIA and zoo tax. They declined it, and so it went back to the DIA and zoo. Macomb County did the same. Wayne County did not. Wayne County said thank you and took the money, which then set up all these
Shocking.
set all these red flags up of then people wanting to know, who are these DDAs and what are they doing? And as Ben and Stuart are very familiar, there were a lot of what they call cornfield DDAs that cities set up because they wanted them to be places for future development and wanted to derive revenue from those places, and they weren't true city centers. So it was 3 years at Lansing that they went through this. They now have a new rigorous reporting process that we are a part of that worked out for DDAs that actually do what we're supposed to do, as many DDAs do, that we do have to turn in every year what we're working on. Things have to be posted on the website, so they see that we are not only working our TIF plan, but looking forward and showing, these are the projects we said we were gonna do, and look, we did them. And here's projects from last year, and now here's what we're doing this year. So I think that's helped that now there isn't a lot of rabble-rousing about DDAs at all at Lansing. But that's very tentative because you get a new group in there and someone has to be in their bonnet about DDAs, and here we go again. That's why we have a nonprofit, because we were very concerned that DDAs just across the board, they were gonna say no thank you. So that was one of the advice that we had gotten from Main Street Oakland County and from National Main Street, is get a nonprofit going, because that then could be our default as a board. Because most Main Street organizations are not city organized, because DDAs only exist in 5 states. They're actually nonprofit based, about 85% are nonprofits. So that's where we were starting to line up in case something happened at Lansing. So, but it's been very quiet for quite some time now, because I think everyone was satisfied with the reporting, and then the people that couldn't report because they were doing it wrong, they don't do it anymore.
Right, they were exposed, so.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it worked out well. So, anyway, so the point here is that we have to be intentional and just, going through this process. And we, I think in terms of being buttoned up, I'm breaking my arm, patting ourselves on the back here, but I think we do a pretty good job of doing everything that's required under the statute. So, yeah, in terms of cornfield DDAs, I don't know if you've ever driven to Midland from, Fabiano Brothers. Right by Dow right there, that's a DDA, TIF.
Oh, perfect. That's
Yeah,
great.
so they created the DDA, Fabiano Brothers built that giant thing, and then it's like, so that's the whole thing is captured in there. It's hilarious.
Nope.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
It's all good.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I guess I've talked a little bit about this before, but
I have to scoot you up to the
being,
microphone.
being someone who has been around for the DDA for a long time, by the way, I was not on it the first year, on the DDA board. It was the second year I got on that. But, in fact, when I first ran, somebody asked me about a DDA. I said, oh, I don't need that. So I didn't even understand what it was.
Gotcha.
When I first got involved with that, so I didn't want to take
Too much
for
credit.
something.
Yeah, right.
It really wasn't a part of. But I do want to make a point that I think is really important. I was around before that, and I saw the problems that we had, and so many times, I was in the restaurant business downtown, and so many of the people would come in, and they would say, geez, we just love this downtown. This is after it got going. And we moved here because of that. I'd say, where do you live? Well, I live out in Adams Road. Or some of them didn't even realize they didn't live in Rochester, but they identified with this downtown. And so that happened in Rochester Hills, and probably as many or more outside of Rochester. And I think we got to convey that, because in this time and a lot of times, particularly when times get a little more rough, people start looking where their money is, Rochester and Oakland County, and all these people that we have some of their money, and they have to realize that we are making money for them, because this downtown, as it got stronger, so did the people that wanted to be in this town, which raised the property values up. And because that wasn't happening before. In this downtown, at one point in time, the vacancies downtown, just before the DDA, just, you could almost, I was starting to wonder who was going to fill those buildings, because there was just nobody. And I remember one time in a meeting, we actually sat out over 3 meetings, decided whether we could spend $100 to put something in the program at Oakland University in a summer theater. We didn't have any money. If you don't have any money, you can't do anything. So we need to convey that, even if we have to go to the city council, if we have to go to the Oakland County, we had to make sure that they understand that this is making them money. We're not taking their money, we're making them money. And if they abandon us, they'll pay for it. Anyway, thanks for that time.
I think on balance, we've got, obviously, we have a really good working relationship with council, and there's three stools, the four-legged stool. I can't remember how many legs we have now with the PSD involved too, but, we all have each other's back, and we're all rowing the boat in the same direction, and we all realize that we all feed off of each other. But at the end of the day, for us, we just have to make sure that we're making council happy and doing everything in a responsible manner. So we'll continue to do that. I don't suspect that'll change. But the nice thing about, the county is that the county's made a huge investment in Main Street as well, right? So, so now we've got fans. Obviously, we're like one of the, I don't know if we're their favorite child, but we're probably right up there with the one or two in terms of the DDAs. And so anyway, I think we're in a good spot for that. This, without belaboring the point, I think that the main focus here is that we have a plan. We have to be intentional about the money that we take from taxpayers and how we spend it, and that everybody in the community is in agreement as to what it should be spent upon. And then our job as, trustees of that is to, arrive at those things, narrow them down, and set forth a budget, present it to council, and, they either give us the old, or this, and go figure it out kind of thing. But anyway, that's what we're going to do in a couple of weeks. Anyway, moving on. What else do we have?
That was what I had for myself.
Okay, I
so-
thought there was a couple other things too. So,
Yep, that's in the packet if we want to go back
Got it.
over things that we've talked about.
yeah, so I think really for tonight, for me, and like I said, I sent you guys a note, just kind of some thoughts and some thought starters, because we hadn't gotten together in a couple months. So two things. I think it's important that we, get our momentum back, and I think this was a good primer, so thank you for putting that together. I appreciate it. And then, not have it be sort of a tag. We had talked about just tagging on to the end of a meeting, and we're doing normal business right now, and then to stop that and to sort of go into goals and objectives things, you're having to shift gears. We're all sort of tired, and we've done everything. So I want to make it intentional. So we had talked about scheduling a meeting, I think last week of January, first week of February, something like that.
Yes, so I put into the packet, I checked with the city, and they are available, the room here is available to us the week of the 30th on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay.
We can't do Wednesday because that is the PSD meeting, so, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
So, so with respect to setting a separate goals and objectives, the ask for the board is to just get you guys balanced on, do any of these dates work for everybody or mostly everybody? Is there any one in particular that works better than others?
Personally, I'm good with Monday and Friday
Okay.
of that week.
All right. This would be Monday, January 30th, Tuesday, January 31st, Thursday, February 2nd, or Friday, February 3rd. I'm guessing it's probably going to be about an hour, hour and a half. It shouldn't be very long, so I'm hoping that by then we should have, good direction information. We're going to take sort of what's gathered this evening and start putting some meat on the bone, and then as we get together next month, as we do this, we'll have the presentation, and hopefully we'll have some direction there, and then by the time we have our February meeting, we'll have some good direction as to where we're headed.
Any of those days are clear on my
Okay,
calendar.
anybody else?
Yeah, I'm flexible, so.
Good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Anybody from the peanut gallery out there? You guys good on, would Monday, the 30th work good?
Zoning information meeting?
It's goals and objectives for the DDA?
I know, but on Monday, 30th, I have a zoning information meeting. Maybe that's wrong.
Which one?
The 30th, I had zoning information meeting. That must be wrong.
That was the original date. That's the one we had
Oh, okay,
this
forgot
past.
to delete it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's open.
Okay, got it. I just, in terms of Friday, for me,
Friday
I gotta go to the
is
farm, so.
open in the evening.
Fridays up north driving, so I'll be out of here by then. Plus, nobody wants to be here on Friday night.
No.
So you're looking at Monday, you said?
Monday, January 30th. Does that sound good? All right.
6 or 7.
Why don't we do 6 and have dinner?
Okay.
La Pumas?
Oh.
No,
How's
we're gonna all
Ryan?
sit in the same room for a couple hours.
Do we need to make a motion for that?
What's that?
Do we need to make a motion? Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
You
we're-
can do it by consensus.
yeah, so, all right, so let's do Monday, January 3rd at 6. Does 6 work for you?
6 works for me, yeah.
Okay, great. Anybody else? 6 not good? I'm always in for free dinners, so we'll entice you with food. So
Yes, I'll figure that out.
we'll figure something out. It could be La Pumas.
Let me know. I'd love to.
I'm down for it, but, I'm not responsible for anything that happens an hour afterwards, so. But yeah, so we'll feed you guys, and so we'll be prepared to have some discussions. And I'd like to walk out of that meeting with all of us sort of being, arm in arm, kumbaya, this is where we're headed, this is what we want to work on for this year. So just a couple of thoughts from the chair, and then I'll open it up for dialogue. But just sort of framing the whole thing, I mean, there's so many great ideas and things that we can do, but, you know, the sad fact is that, you know, there's not a dumpster full of $100 bills out back, right? So the funds are finite, so we have to be super careful and prioritize. Great, I know you guys already know that. Also, too, Christie, just given the fact that everybody's backing the Brinks truck up from the governments with respect to grants, I'd like to get some more thought as to the ability for us to get to those things. And if we had to engage a professional grant searcher, if that was worthwhile.
The city already has engaged one through the fire department, and I've been working with Chief Cecil and with Anthony
All right,
on those.
I mean, you know, I'm not afraid of throwing a few shekels at somebody that if they're going to be able to return tenfold on that. So
I know Lee worked with Linda, but this is somebody else we've been meeting with. It's an actual company that
Just
does
thoughts. So, you know, if there's something there, just kind of let us know how much it might, you know, run to have them help us out and do that. So, your point about, you know, bonding and all that stuff, we're in an environment of increasing interest rates, so the quicker we stick and move on that, it'll be beneficial to the extent that we decide to do that. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, you know, the shot clock is running with respect to interest rates. And then also too, just sort of being mindful of, you know, the economic things that we're facing, right? So we're looking at, nobody knows what the downturn is gonna, how long it's gonna last, what it's gonna look like, but we'll be mindful of that as well. And then lastly, I would like to see us resend out the deck, the presentation deck, or whatever we did after the visioning session, so we can kind of get refamiliarize ourselves with the outcome of that, because there was a lot of really good stuff in there. So if you could just send that around.
Yep.
And sort of with that, open up the floor to discussion. I guess we could go in order with respect, let's see, we talked about, so at BizDev, we talked about the Small Business Accelerator, we talked about Holiday Expo, we talked about, so that, all of those things we already talked about, right? Site Dev, we went through the list there. What wasn't there was Depot, Lions Park, wayfinding signs, and then the trail connections we did talk a little bit about. So I know it's hard without a number attached to it. So two things. Number one is we need to find out from Anthony how much, you know, what those things look like. From an operations standpoint, I mean, we've, over the course of, you know, multiple years, we've really thrifted that thing down. So I don't, you know, of course, we need to look at everything, but there's not gonna, everything is going to be coming out of the capital side, so we need to decide on that. And then, I lost my train of thought. It's the senioritis is starting to catch up with me, Tony. Right? But anyway, with that, I think I've set this up enough, so I'll open up the floor to discussion on anybody in terms of your thoughts generally on things that you want to see us work on between now and January 30th to have prepared for you in terms of, I'd like to see numbers on this, or I'd like to get some more information on that, so anybody feel free to. Marilyn, please.
Yeah, just what was the Lions Park offer? Do they have a number?
We don't have a number. We just have the offer that they would like to do some rehab there. We have a separate offer from an adjacent property owner that would like to do something with that area as well. So it's just a matter of if we decide we want that to become a priority project, then we can go back to those people and find out exactly, what do you mean by you're interested?
Well, in general, when I'm trying to make decisions, it's better to see something. I mean, we've seen the front porch, and we kind of have numbers, sort of. The last one I saw was 1.7 million. But the others, I don't really see any numbers on, but I don't know how other people feel, but.
Yeah, no, it's super important. I guess we're trying to figure out which ones matter for us to spend the time to gather all that stuff. If it's not, you know,
So
there's not.
just to start taking it off the list here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Lions Park, refresh our collective memories on that.
So so you may, I don't think anybody else was on this board, maybe other than maybe Stuart, it would have been one of your rounds here, that the Lions had approached the city and the DDA and wanted to do a project with them. And so when the knitting mill project came up, there were some little pieces of property over there. And so the DDA worked with the Rewalds to get an easement for the walkway that comes up from the trail up into Main Street. And then also that little area that has the gazebo that was donated by Dillman and Upton, that was a little parcel that the DDA purchased and put in in a pocket park and named it the Lions Park. The Lions, I believe, back in history, I believe gave about $75,000 to help offset the cost of that. It certainly didn't pay for the whole thing, but it was an investment into that. That project had just been built when I had gotten back, and we have tried to program it several times, and it's just challenging, just for both location and just for what was built. There isn't a lot you can do there to do critical mass. So we had been contacted by the Lions during COVID saying that they had some monies, they've been over there, and they feel like they'd like to see something happen. They didn't know what that something was, but if we were interested in doing something, they would be interested in talking with us. So no numbers at that point have ever been thrown. But then in addition to that, we've been talking with Frank Rewald that parcel is interesting to him. And so there have been a few discussions about whether or not we would rehab that or do some type of a swap with him or some kind of something, because he might like to reinvigorate that area as well, because it is adjacent to his two parcels. We're kind of like this little itty bitty thing in the middle of his domain over there. So again, going back to Ben's point, it comes down to, are these key projects that we want to do something about, or is this something of, okay, we like A, but the Lions Park, let's put that behind and let's go after Depot, or whatever it's going to be. So we can figure out just philosophically what's we really want to get to, and then we can start throwing numbers on to see what things look like. Because like Lions, that would be several months of us trying to figure out, okay, then we're going to have a discussion here of what do we want Lions to be? And then we have to talk to Frank and see how serious he was. And then, so it's not like by the 30th, I'm going to have a plan of everybody saying, here's the list and here's all my numbers. That's
More or less, let's figure out if it's
unfortunately, I don't
worthwhile.
have that.
For the purposes of this discussion, you say you have four directions.
Yeah, just trying to prioritize, right?
Yeah.
But if you're, I mean, when we bring up the Lions, it just has a list of problems, usually. I mean, there is a lot of problems to me. Like, the Lions seems to have, it's hard to get to. Where are we gonna get, we're gonna get some money, what are we gonna do with
Yeah.
it? Do we wanna do something? Then we're over at Depot. I mean, isn't Depot, that one, someone, maybe we could get some money for that too? That's more.
Not that, no one has offered us money for that one. That would be a DDA thing. But again, if we had a plan, which we do not have, if we had a plan that I could shop around for grants with, but that's the same thing. You can't apply for a grant placemaking unless you have the drawing, you have a rough estimate of cost, that kind of thing. We just can't say, we'd like to do something here and go for it. So I think that there's two things that'll be happening here. I think we'll be building a budget, but then I think we're also going to be building a plan of, in the long term, we want to go after Depot Plaza. We want to go after ABC, but we need to figure out what that looks like. Because, for instance, if everybody says yay for front porch, that is not a one-year project. That is not, we're not putting a shovel in the ground in July.
Right.
That's not happening.
We're essentially talking about the master plan for the DDA,
Well, sure,
right?
that's what I'm saying. You've got a system and it's leaning heavily on one part of the town. The other part of the town.
Yeah, I mean, so if we're trying to figure out ways to make something work,
Yeah.
the chances are that's probably a waste of time, energy, effort, and life force. That's just sort of my opinion and how life rolls in general. So I would be interested to see, what interest there is in the piece. The nice thing about the DDA is we can actually buy and sell property. To the extent that it makes economic sense, and if somebody wants that piece, we could, to your point, trade or whatever. So maybe rekindle that conversation, see if there's a there. If there's no there, then we'll just chalk it up to, an asset an unperforming asset. So we'll just budget for grass cutting and weed whacking and call it good, right? So I hate to do
Yes.
that, but once again, getting back to the finite pool, unless the board decides we need to focus on that's most important, which is
Correct.
entirely possible, so.
It doesn't look like that, but I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're talking about the front porch or the town square. Is it specifically for that location? Is it only, or is that an option to other locations?
So where we had left it last is financially, it was not in our favor to try and put it on another parcel. We own the parcel that we're looking at, and that brought our numbers down, because when we started throwing around some of the larger numbers, I think everybody realized that was probably too far out of our reach. Whereas we came back and trying to live within our means and looking at a piece of property that we already own, and we could do more with that and make it a really great project, rather than trying to make a deal on a piece of property with a partner that wasn't sure from day to day whether he wanted to be a part of it or not, and was going to charge us full boat for the property before we even built anything. And so it's going to cost us at least $2 to $3 million more, and we would have been able to build less of a project.
So we don't have any other piece of property that we own in DDA?
Parking lots.
Yeah.
but nothing that would be big enough to accommodate that. That would be the one, that's the biggest one, and that's the one that has been kept out of the city's system, and it doesn't have meters in it because that's where farmer's market is, and so to put in the curbing and doing all those things, they had gone away from that at the beginning, but because they would still want to have free parking downtown, so it's the only remaining free lot in downtown. So that's why it's been left alone, and that one is still under DDA control.
Mr. Mayor.
So, I mean, sometimes it almost seems like we need to see numbers and prices and stuff like that before we can determine if it's a priority. Right? I mean, if it's $3.7 million, well then, even if we love it, then maybe it's not a priority anymore. So it's almost like, to me, it seems like we need come back with numbers and, you know, as best you can in different ways. Do we think we can get grants? You know, how is it going to be financed?
Right.
Because $2 million, we just have to come up with it. Well, maybe we can't do that, but if it's $2 million and there's other sources.
Right.
So I mean, I think we need to have that discussion before we can say, well, we're 100% on board or not.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think part of it too, I'm sorry, I think everybody's like jumping in here. I was just gonna say, I think where I was going with goals, this is what I was trying to talk to Ben about today, is that I feel like we've been talking about front porch for so long, I just want to nod if people are even still interested anymore. Because really, other than a couple people who are on site development, I haven't heard anybody on this board come to me and say, front porch, let's get it. So I'd like to have a little bit of a philosophical discussion. I get that. I mean, but I don't think, from numbers that we saw, there's nothing that's going to say this is $10 million or something like that. But I feel like if we just have a brief, some discussion on the 30th about, does anybody even still want this? The community said they wanted it. We did the visioning session to confirm that, but are we up for this? And then if everybody says yes, then let's go to the dance. Let's get the numbers. Let's do all the things. Let's look into the grants. Let's do all that. But I don't want to waste that time if this board collectively is like, I think we'd rather focus our efforts here. We think we'd be more successful doing X, whatever that is. Because I don't think we've ever gotten a definitive out of this board if that's a priority. Site development's found it a priority, but the board overall has never said that it's a
So
priority.
that was going to be the next question.
Yeah.
I'd ask site, is there anything on this list or not on this list that we need to be also considering? Or is there anything on here in your guys' estimation we ought to just pull off and, sort of thrift?
No, I thought our next priority was the Depot Plaza for other things besides the front porch. But, the last time I was at a council meeting, it kind of felt like even the council was for this front porch project. I mean, that's like our next big step. I mean, we're using that piece of property for what we're using it right now, a farmer's market. We do a lot of stuff on that property. So it's a natural thing just to progress. I mean, to make that what it should be, instead of just a parking lot where we throw a farmer's market in just a parking lot. But that's my opinion.
I ask a question. Is the front porch and the town square, are those two separate projects or one
It's the same thing,
project?
yeah.
Okay, so when we're talking about the town square, we're talking about also the front porch, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's pick one.
If-
Name. It might be easier.
It seems that, and to kind of discuss more what the mayor said, we're looking at, right off the bat, money. If money was not the top line item, where would the town square be?
Number one, by far.
He's asking location.
No, where would you locate the
location.
town square if money was not the object? Because when I've had the opportunity to travel, not only in the United States extensively, but also in all over. And the town squares, everything's built around it.
Unfortunately, our forefathers didn't think
If you look at
that.
Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
we
But
sold ours
downtown
to the state of
Pittsburgh, the
Michigan.
square in downtown
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
built
yeah.
around it.
But you have to remember, the next area for growth is right there.
Yeah.
And there's very few parcels that are available to us. That's really, I look at it as one of the few, one of the only ones maybe. But you got to remember, you got Mosheries starting, you got the Rewalds and the Mosheries doing the elevator, you got Suave owns a piece across the street. Man, that's it. Where's the next boom going to be in our city? It's right there, I feel.
Yeah. The east side's our last frontier for the DDA, for sure.
Yes, sir.
But that would be then we're saying that that's the ideal spot almost regardless of money, the cost.
Right now.
Okay.
Well, it's a function of not having anywhere else. I mean, you'd have to,
We have to knock down buildings.
strike out a giant check to.
I mean, practically and reasonably, it's.
The problem is we got M150 running right down the middle of town, so it's like, you have to sort of deal with what you got. Roger?
I didn't know if it would be helpful if we just took by a show of hands to determine what the priority was to answer Christie's concern, so that we could, probably everybody has some feeling about what they think's number one.
Yeah.
And if we did that, would that be of any help to you?
Yeah, I think so. I was just going to suggest that maybe we take the list, because really, the biz dev, a lot of that stuff is high impact, low dollar, if that.
Except for the incubator, if you want to go down that road.
Well, yeah, that could be part of, yes, true. So, but my thing on the site development stuff is we're mostly focused, at least it seems like over the course of the last several years, mostly focused on capital, right? So,
And maintenance.
capital and maintenance. So it feels like probably the best course of action would be take this bullet list of 6 items, so Front Porch Depot, Lions Park, wayfinding signs, improved trail connections with downtown, put not our mission statement, but something smaller than our mission statement size, sort of reminding us what the options are, and then attach a Comerica Park number to it. It can be Ford Field, some ballpark. Doesn't have to be, right?
Okay.
All right, or where we left it off. So,
Yes.
and then with respect to Front Porch and Town Square, let's pick one name and go with it. It feels like we keep referring to it as the Town Square sort of generically, so I would just sort of keep that, but we know, once again, I don't care. We can call it Dave for all I care. Just as long as we're all referring it to the same thing, so that there's no confusion amongst, us, let alone the public as to what the idea is and the nature of it. So whatever, don't care what that is, but let's sort of settle on that. But, and then once we have that, to the mayor's point, then we can make some kind of, because we got good numbers on Town Square.
Yeah.
Front Porch.
Yeah.
So the 1.7 million.
On Dave.
Dave, right. We got good numbers on Dave, so we'll,
1.7?
1.7 is the last number
Yeah.
that had been talked about. Jason Rewald, when he was on our committee, he was doing cost projections for us, and that was our last
yeah,
number
we've got some.
on the farmer's market site.
And we've
Has
already
that
got some.
gone up or not because of?
We haven't repriced it since Jason gave us those numbers. So 1.7 is the last number that we had.
It was like 2019, I think, wasn't it?
It was February of 20.
Or was it always right before COVID?
It was
No,
right-
that's right, because that.
We were right there.
Yeah, the date was, no, that's right.
Right
So it was
there.
Right before
We
COVID.
assume there's like a 30% increase.
I don't know if I don't want to.
Or maybe it'll go down the next couple of years.
Yeah, right, because.
They're slowing down.
Yeah.
It's gonna go.
So anyway, the point here is let's get sort of a feel, because we've also got some money socked away too, so.
Yes. Do you want this all for the 30th
Yes,
then?
I do. Yeah,
Do you
I
want
think
me to
it's-
add light poles because it's been part of the budget? It's a
Well, I mean,
$250,000, but
Yeah, I mean, whatever, those to me are sort of, I think we're almost done.
we're
aren't we?
close, 3 years at the
Yeah.
most.
So that's what, 200 grand, I think it was?
250.
250. So just the stuff that we do, that we know we're gonna
Okay.
have to do, put in there.
Okay.
And then, let's try and get with Anthony and figure out what our, availability is, and then that'll, inform our decision-making. So to me, it feels like, let's just do a quick refresher on these particular items. That's why I asked, is there anything on the list here that, hold on one second, is there anything on the list here that ought to be on the list? And maybe Marilyn's gonna bring that up, so I'll give her the floor in just a second.
Now as fast as
Just,
possible.
no, just 1 second, but I'm gonna give you the floor, I promise. And then if there wasn't, then let's pull them off, trying to sort of narrow it down. 'Cause we're not doing this for busy work, just for the sake of busy work, it's important so we can make decisions, right? Marilyn?
Okay, I do have an idea.
Okay.
And it's connecting the alley to Walnut Street, and with putting in really good with lights. It's not that expensive. I have one last little idea. I was gonna drop it off to Tony. I've been noodling around with another idea, very small. I think it's affordable.
All right,
So
put it on the list.
So that's all I want.
Okay, so I'm sorry, which side of the parking structure? Are you looking at the south or the north?
North.
North, okay.
With the wings.
Marilyn's
Okay.
lights, and she's, because she volunteered, she's also gonna help fundraise for it too.
Of course. Why not?
Gonna give us some of that 800 grand you just got.
I
Can
don't
you
know.
get me a number to
John
put on?
James might be the guy you need to talk to.
Perfect.
Marilyn, can you get me a number to add to the list then? Because I'm doing the homework on the rest of the ballparks.
The number of what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll get you that number.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
was the latest idea I had, yes.
Sweet.
Well,
Awesome.
probably less
Thank you.
than 10.
You got
You
one,
do have the best ideas, by the way, so.
you got one down there.
Eric, yes.
Has the city got a progress report on the parking garages and how much we're upside down, on those?
I think we're in good shape now because of the COVID money.
Now, yeah, we're back in better than we were before.
Are we actually in the black on them?
Yeah, they got a bunch of COVID money.
Awesome.
Well, and we raised the rates
Yeah,
that
they're
little bit.
performing now.
Okay. I haven't heard about it, like, so.
Yeah, no, people were staying at home, and which was bad, but now they're not staying at home, which is good.
And we're eventing back to normal, so this year was a better year in terms of how we help generate dollars.
Yeah, so it's,
So no pot stores on top of the garages is what I'm hearing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right.
No to pot. Well, no, it's on South Street, we have one little area where they can have a dispensary.
we actually, Stuart, remember, we did
That's
the
not on my
law.
piece of property, is it?
No, we did it, we allowed it, but it had to be within 500 feet of the police station.
Well, no, then we opted out. There
that's
was
right.
one,
Yeah.
now we opted out at all.
Gotcha, yeah. It was that, and then the oil drilling, we also did that one, so it ends up being a 2-square-foot section in the middle of, like, out there, so it's like, hey, man, make it work. Okay, so does that sound like a good plan? All right, so the idea here would be, let's get this together over the course of the next week or so. Send it out to the board as soon as possible. So, that along with the visioning session deck, if you could just dust that off, rename it Dave and send it back out.
You know that's gonna stay.
Right, totally. Herman.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll give us some information. So January 30th, 6 PM, this room.
Yep.
Dinner will be served. If we want it to be fun, we'll have cocktails as well, so.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
Are we getting a social district in
Yeah,
here?
right, yeah, 100%.
You have to file for a liquor license?
Yeah, bistro, City Hall Bistro.
Social district, that's a
Oh,
blast from the past,
Put my
right?
order in for martini right now.
Yeah, right? Chocolatinis for everybody. Well, no, it's real quick. So Social District, good friends of ours own several restaurants in Clarkston, actually all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
But they did a Social District in downtown Clarkston, and it's worked out great, so. I think at the time we asked Chief about it, there wasn't a contiguous place where we could do it, where it sort of made
Yeah.
sense. So it's hard, but anyway, yeah, blast from the past. All right, so is there anything else on anything budget-wise? So I think we got the capital kind of thing roughed in. Did anybody have any other thoughts of things they want to try and get ideas on, numbers on, stuff, to Don's point, don't care about money at this point. It's just the only time, it's fantasy land. So now we're in fantasy land, so we don't care about money. Is there anything else that we need to be having on the agenda, Mr.
Well,
Mayor?
we get the constant thing, can we expand the big bright lights? You always hear that, can it go north, can it go up University? I mean, that's something that,
Can it go away? That's the other one.
no, I don't think we
It was
want it to
kill
go
Santa
away.
Claus. Yeah, no.
It was huge this year.
It
I've
was
seen more
awesome.
people down there than I've
Yeah.
ever had.
So many people. The
Maybe because
merch-
of the weather, but it was great this
Yeah,
year.
it was bananas.
Yeah, the merchants have said this is probably their best season in a long time.
It
It's
was
been crazy
packed.
town.
We
Yeah.
actually had a customer in, for my Gilmore Girls themed dinner and trivia night.
Yes.
And she lives in Bancroft and works in Owasso, and she loved the Big Bright Light Show when she was here on Friday, and said she's gonna take it back to her city to see if they'll do something, not Bancroft, because there's only cows there, but Owasso.
Man, what's cows like?
Not a lot in Owasso
Cows like
either.
lights, what are you saying?
Her house, you usually have to bump a cow out of the road.
Yeah,
to-
right?
Nice.
But
No tipping, though.
Owasso,
Yeah,
maybe.
we probably get a call, at least a call or an email once a week from fill-in-the-blank city here from across the country that wants to know how we do that light show thing.
Yeah, it's,
Very carefully.
100%. Yeah, no, that's. that
So
is-
just the down, further
Yeah.
up to, well, the Pumas,
Thank you, Mayor.
or,
Down Third Street.
down, yeah, or up University. So, I mean, you hear that from the business
Yeah.
people.
And I can certainly get some ballparks from Dan's. It's easy enough to fill, we have a formula now for buildings to figure out how many strands I need per building. So we could get that, but I could see if I could get them to look at some of the streets. We had those numbers back in the day. I think we priced out but it's been a long time, but I figure they could probably dust that off and
was
get me
like
some
double.
fresh.
It was like double.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying we could do it all, for sure, but,
What other things besides lights?
The
We
things
tried,
they can
we
do
did the snowflakes.
oh, I got stuff.
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff, the snowflake. All right, I'll tell you what, put it on the sheet. I don't want to get into that now. We'll hear all night.
Oh, I got pictures for you
I know you
people.
do. I
It's
have,
called London, baby.
I
I'm
know
telling you.
Christmas is our thing,
yeah.
Yes.
but Naperville does an awesome Harry Potter week with Diagon Alley and,
Talk to PSD.
okay, all right.
Well, remember
I
we
mean,
did,
and it brings in lots of people.
were you on the council when we did a Harry Potter weekend? We had protesters.
I vaguely remember that.
We had
I-
protesters in here for that.
Fake news. Just kidding.
Yeah. It really happened.
Really did.
Yeah, no,
I
it's, there's, well, what's the old saying, Stuart?
Oh,
Never
God.
make everybody happy.
Protester, we did.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. but-
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, we're spending, it's devil worshiping or something, and we're spending government dollars promoting a,
Are these the kids on the dance poles, people that were protesting?
No, predates them, but I will tell you, PSD's, one of our members suggested a Yellowstone week where everyone dresses like the characters from
Oh
Yellowstone.
dear, yes.
There was a lot going on at that meeting.
All right. Well, if things keep going the way they are, Hunger Games will be on the list pretty soon, so.
Outlander might be.
All right, so I think we got good sufficient
Ready?
direction there. January 30th,
Yep.
be there or be square, right?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you, I appreciate that. Is there anything else on the, that we didn't cover? Is the horse dead?
Oh, it's dead.
I think the horse is dead, excellent. All right, so we set the date, so let's see, volunteers for budget subcommittee, so it's that time. Who did we have last year?
We had Tony, we had Bob, we had Marilyn, Nick, Anthony, you.
Yes.
I think that's everybody.
So, budget time, we try and get a handful of us to sort of work with administration and work with numbers. So is there anybody that has any interest in participating this year? Eric, excellent. Bob, excellent.
I took last year off because I was getting a
Need a
new,
person, I'm in.
I was getting a new roommate at the time, so,
Yes, you were, that's right.
yeah, so.
It's-
High maintenance one.
I heard, Tony, you said you want?
Yeah, if you need
Okay.
a person, I'm in.
Okay.
All right, so, anybody else? Okay, I think I mean, I hate to have it be the boys' club, but it appears that's the way it's gonna be, so.
I'm there.
Well, yes, of course. Well, like I said, boys' club.
I know, I'm one of the guys, I know.
No, 100%, I get it, I get it, I get
Oh,
it.
you're secretary
or
too.
aren't you?
so.
She can't be because she's a liaison, so this is, I mean, you could come, it's like,
Sorry, Marilyn.
you can come, but yeah. So you're welcome,
Well, thank you.
yeah, so.
Well, let me know the
If you
time.
come, bring the
Maybe I'll-
donuts, though.
I'll-
I'll have coffee, you bring the donuts.
I've been going to a lot of places lately, so.
Yeah, I would imagine you've got
just
your arms full with
stop
budget
by
stuff
there,
right
too.
now. All right, so we will probably convene shortly after the January 30th meeting because we'll have some good direction as to where we're headed. Hopefully Anthony will be able to rough in some numbers for us by then.
I'll
We're-
invite him to the meeting on the
Yeah,
30th
yeah,
to
yeah.
see if
So
he's
we're not gonna
available.
know from Oakland County till like, what, March?
Usually it's like, yeah, late February, early March, that we get real numbers from
Yeah, so, well, I
equalization.
mean, he's always been really close, so I'm not gonna sweat it too much. But, have that, talk about fund balance, reconciling where we're at, what, this current year is panning out to be and where we're headed and that sort of thing, so. All right, cool. So, thanks, guys, for your service, appreciate it. Stay tuned, News at 11. A city budget planning process update, Marilyn Trent, Nick Banda.
Yeah, so Marilyn really kind of already told you a little bit, so.
I told you some, here,
Yeah.
you can fill in the rest.
Yep, so, two good meetings Saturday and Monday. Saturday's budget meeting with council went great. We started from where we thought we were gonna be. So we've really embraced this 3-year budget process for 5 years now. So now we're seeing the end of that first 3-year prediction. So we went backwards. Mayor and I talked about it, and it's like, they set where we thought we were gonna be, and where we thought we were gonna be this year, 3 years ago, was negative, in our general fund budget, straight up, we thought we were gonna be negative 1.5 million. That's just the way it was playing out. So, after a lot of staff work, council, everything that we've done, the number this year was like, what should have been 1.5 was like negative 400. But that negative 400 was before we start digging into things that we can get to. It's down to like 0. And then the next year was positive, and the next year was positive. So that's just if nothing changes. No development. We took very conservative numbers. Council's like, we're not gonna play any shell games. We're just saying, this is what's coming in. What's happened is the tax base here, to Roger's point, it was 9.7% higher this year. The DDA is gonna get $85,000 from PAR, not doing something. There's a couple of things that happen, that there's windfalls for the DDA this year, present, coming up. So, we, again, didn't try to project what we think could happen. By the time if some of these big projects got approved and started in the ground, it takes about 3 years to get them on the books at full tax value. If you're a brownfield, some of the ones that we're talking about in the DDA, the elevator, Randazzo, all these guys, they are in brownfield situations where you might not get your full tax dollars back for 7 years until the brownfield's done. But again, we didn't take any of those things into account. But because of Headley, we don't get to capture the 9% that our TAVs went up. I'm sorry, our SEVs went up, but you don't get that in the taxes. But at 5%, it was a way bigger hit than we thought it would be to the positive. So that brought that negative $400,000 down. So, and it's projected to be, Anthony's already projected out what it's gonna be conservatively, and we're in great shape. So it's not like we're flowing money, but we're not bleeding money. It looked like we were gonna bleed money like everybody else. There's nobody doing the dance other than these communities like Shelby and Macomb Township that are building 3,000 units of homes. It's Rochester when East Side got built. What a boon that was. That's $1 billion in value, literally. But that happens one time, right? You watch these guys creeping in with their tax dollars, but now they built all these homes, but guess what they have to do with their dollars? Water, sewer, streets, widen roads, all that. So it's a trade-off. We're stable. So when we get new money in, we don't have to do all this infrastructure. The DDA's made it a big impact in helping pay for a lot of these projects through the capital. So it was a great meeting Saturday, Marilyn and Mayor. I think we all felt positive. We're all, as Ben likes to say, rowing the boat in the same direction, and we're looking forward to that next process. So then Monday night was a joint meeting of the Plan Commission and City Council, only second time since I've been here. And Patrick and I kind of call our community development director, we kind of called for this because there's, the mayor likes to say this, Solaronics all day long, the elevator all day long. We're hearing Suave all day long, Let Randazzo all day long. These big projects, people are getting freaked out about. So, and they don't understand the process, or you're gonna have the skeptics from the residents saying, you guys are trying to push all this through to get tax dollars. There's processes that you have to go through to get to the point where you can even anticipate development, and then certainly take it through a procedure to get it done, right? So we wanted everybody to be on the same page, including the residents. So we taped it, but we didn't play it live. We're gonna play it over the city council channel or our city channel forever. And it really talked about the two things. The master plan that just got approved was acknowledged to be a little bit sloppy, and people don't understand. So the people that don't want development look at the master plans. That is the Bible, and that's not the case. It's just a guide. By state law, it's a guide. You can just say, we're leaving the master plan the same for the rest of your life, and by law, you cover your own butt. So, but we didn't do that, so we spent some money on it, and the problem is, because Rochester was stable with the zoning classifications and the zoning ordinance for decades, decade after decade, when we in 2014, when we hired McKenna to do that master plan, they asked for 17 zoning districts. We have like 7 right now that really work. So that was a huge, they didn't just like to call the downtown development area, the CBD. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just Main Street. It's Main Street and 5 blocks over. And it's like apples and oranges on certain streets. It didn't make sense anymore. So they cut it up into a bunch of districts, Edge 1, Edge 2, Transition, Core, all these things. And it took 3.5 years to try to get the text, the words that describe those new districts. And when we hit that point, it's now time to do it again. So there was a lot of time wasted where we didn't implement the 2014 master plan. We have a new one that was approved last April 22nd. You guys saw it. It needs some tweaking, and council's like, all right, how do we get to it, make it a zoning ordinance, and how is it real? So when developers come in, they get it, and we know what to expect, and they know what to expect. So they put us on a fast track. We're gonna bring, because there's new planning commissioners, new city council members, we're gonna go back through all the districts again in 3 lumps, get them done in 2 meetings each, get them forward, and then end up having the zoning map's gonna look like what we all agree that the master plan should look like. Now, we wanted the residents to understand that there's still a process. Rezoning is rezoning. We'll use Solaronics as an example. if they want to come in and ask for rezoning to, it's industrial now, to office, to multiple family, to single family, they have that right. They've always had that right. They will continue to have that right. And we didn't want to dig into each site. The elevator is zone industrial with a slash of B1 in it. Makes no sense. It doesn't even follow the property line. So we talked about how can we get it together where we're either going to have the underlying zoning match what we think we want as a community, or we still have this thing called special projects. And special projects, a few years ago, a couple council people gave it a real bad name. And by that I say, it was like, oh, we think that outsiders think special project means come in and let's make a deal and throw out all the rules with the city council. It was just the opposite. It gave this flexibility. It's the greatest planning tool ever. Most communities have their entire community either a PUD, RUD, or CUD. Planned unit developments, commercial unit developments, or residential. Here we have these special projects. That's how the Royal Park got built. That's how Romeo and Main got built. That's how Randazzo got approved. You make the best for your community. OPC was a special project. Yeah, the older person. So we got everybody in the room to say, it's not a bad thing. We can use this to our advantage. So let's fix it and make sure everybody understands the tool. So everybody, all 7 council people, all 9 planning commissioners nodded their heads like, this is the direction we want to go. We want everybody to understand it's transparency. It's approved by state law, how you go through this process. Let's get the land use right, the future land use, and then we'll see what happens when developers come in. So it was awesome, and we feel good about that. So that's the next step, is we're going to plod through these things with the planning commission, back to city council, public hearings at planning commission and city council. So the public will be well informed. And now's the time to tweak it again, because we can. It's open for discussion. So, and I don't know that all of you know this, but at the city council meeting on Saturday, we recognized the fact that Chief Steve is retiring, our police chief. So he's been here 15 years. He's ready, and in the next 90 days, probably, as we start to search for a new chief, he's going to be gone. That's just a massive hole in this organization. There is no finer man or employee, public servant on the planet that I've ever met. That's a huge thing for us to do. Lucky for us, he's made a great department. They support him. They understand the process here. They understand Rochester. So we have an internal candidate that said that he's going to go for it. Lieutenant Harper, and we hope he's got to go through that process, just like we're going to do for my search. We will go through the process again and see what we come up with. So that was kind of sad, but we're happy for him, very happy for him and Jenny. They're going to do whatever they want to do. So that's that. So I think that's it.
Day I was dreading.
All of us. It's a tough one. Big shoes to fill. You can say that about not a lot of people. That was a big shoes to fill.
You know, Chief Steve is the man.
All right,
Yeah,
so
it was.
I think that's it.
All right, so on to the zoning ordinance restrict general office use, that's the next thing,
Yeah,
so.
so I call that, so I announced that, I call it the Roger Knapp Amendment, and Roger's been, I give him credit for that, because he's been talking to me about this for years as a planner. And the basis of it is, we talked about it at the DDA meeting, that we can't afford, if we want to keep 97% occupancy rate, there's a couple ways to do it. Backfill with whoever you want on Main Street, and that's no problem. We could fill every single space all the time. But do you want to take what you just get? No. So we noticed, even during Big Bright Light Show, on the prime block from Bean and Leaf to Funky Frog to our studio, then the windows go dark a little bit because you have real estate offices in there, or you have a service industry down there. That's not what the core downtown should be, right? So we talked about it. So how could we get away with it legally and be fair to the business owners to make sure that we don't tie their hands if they want to lease to whoever they want to lease to. So, and the door was open, and this is detail stuff, but in our ordinance presently, it says you cannot, if you ever wonder why there's not apartments on the first floor of Main Street, it's because you can't. It says upper story only, second, third, anything but the first floor can't be apartments. So that precedent's been set. So what we're going to do is we took it to the planning commission. They all nodded their heads. We got to tweak it. We're going to say from University to Second, both sides of Main Street. That's it. Not side streets, not fourth, third, second. It's just that core. You can't have general office on the first floor. You can have a bank. That's not general office, but general office, which are real estate places, medical office, nope, that's gotta go on the second floor, right? And so Birmingham's got that, almost every Grosse Points all have that. You don't want general office on the first floor. It doesn't make sense. So everybody's in support of that. Talked to a couple of the business owners that would be affected by that are offices now. For instance, Poshko's got Artera in there now. What kicked us all off is they took Greens. That's 10,000 square feet, 5,250 square feet on the first floor of now not gonna be retail. Greens was retail. It was open. The lights are on. You can see activity. So they're making that a workspace. So it's gonna be not just a real estate office. It's people coming in, renting space. So that's good. But now when we want to make sure this ordinance was ready, so when Artera goes to backfill, we want that to be some kind of retail. And we're not hurting the developer
Is
at all.
that green, by the way, is that where they're moving out of? Is that grandfathered to the next, that he can continue to do?
No, if the new ordinance is in place, no.
Okay.
So we did not do a sunset clause. It's like, you can't do it. So, and again, working with the business owners, we're not jamming this down anybody's throat. Nobody, I don't think anybody on Main Street wants office first. They've unfortunately Greens took the highest offer. Theo made them a big number offer compared to people that were looking at it for restaurants and things.
Yeah.
And the city council has helped immensely by dropping that parking fee to $1,000. There are that could be a restaurant. Greens could have turned into a restaurant. It would have cost them about $45,000. That's it. Before, it would have cost them $450,000 to make it into a restaurant. But now that impediment's gone, so it's working out really good.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that to a person up here that we're in full
So
support of.
that should be in place. We're gonna have first reading, public hearing in February, and then March would be
Goes to the planning commission.
to the planning commission. Yeah, they'd set a public hearing for the March meeting. At March, if they agree, then we'd go to city council for first reading, and then second reading adoption. So 3 or 4 months, we should have that in place.
If you guys need any of us to appear at that meeting, let us know. We'll be happy to.
Yeah, we haven't got any pushback from the business owners.
Would it be
Yeah,
helpful to have the DDA board send a letter of
Yeah,
recommendation
absolutely.
to that? So,
Absolutely.
is there any objection to sending a letter to the planning commission indicating our approval for the changes in this ordinance?
So what I'll do, Mr. Chairman, is I'll send you back the revised, so you know exactly what we're saying.
Yeah.
Because it was loose. When Jeff Kraut wrote the first time, it was
Yeah.
all the CBD. It's like, whoa, you don't want to,
When's that meeting?
February 6th.
Okay, so we'll be here on the 30th. We'll be able to do legislative actions. It's a publicly noticed meeting, so why don't you go ahead and bring that to the
Okay.
extent that we've
Just-
got
Just a resolution that
or
supports
just do
the.
a resolution, and we'll have that vote on the 30th of January.
Okay.
My sense of the council and sense of the planning commission is, I haven't heard anything,
Yeah.
any blowback.
No brainer?
I would
could
say
be.
so.
Yeah, got it.
And again, we wanted to make sure it's defensible.
Oh, 100%.
If somebody came at us, and it's like.
Yeah, no, so.
Every downtown has.
So
it.
if it's passed on, whatever day it becomes, codified into the ordinance, from that point thereafter, it's, so you're in if you're under the wire, but the next time the next Artera comes
And
up.
if there's any blowback, we turn them over to Roger.
Right? Yeah.
That's right. It's the Roger Knapp amendment.
It's all right. We'll get you a cake with a file.
Former
on it, Roger.
mayor.
We'll do good.
That's right.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr.
welcome.
City Manager. And then in terms of Chief Steve, obviously, so we
Yeah,
got some things we want to do, so.
Yeah, Ben and I already talked about bringing Steve to a future meeting, either February, March, and doing a
That's
special
gonna
thing
be
for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll give him a gift certificate. I'll pay for it.
It's the least we can do. We always do the least we can do.
Yep.
Okay, Oakland County Annual Accreditation, February 2nd, Madam Director.
So it included in your packet, I know many of you have participated in this process with us in the past. There actually is a new process that has come down from National Main Street. It's on the back of my executive director report. It's very similar to what they did before. Before, as it was, you had to, of the 10 points that you had to qualify for, you had to get 7. Now it's that they have all these categories and you have to score an average of 3 in all categories or you don't get accredited. I think they're trying to, I don't want to speak for National, but I got the distinct impression that they felt that too many people were getting accredited and maybe they needed to make the process a little more stringent to make sure that people that got it really had worked to get that level, which I feel confident we will. So that's happening on February 2nd. I got the schedule from John Bright. We are not having an outside consultant this year. They are going to be evaluating us through our Main Street Oakland County staff. They'll be at the studio from 9 until noon on February 2nd, and they wanted to meet with the DDA board from 9 to 10 a.m. So I will send a meeting notice out to everybody
Yep.
for that. As many people that can come, that would be great. They're going to meet with our Business Development Committee at 10 a.m. Because the entire Site Development Committee is on DDA board, so we always seem to cover site development stuff with DDA. It's a Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday.
It's a Thursday. So site development, we'll talk about their stuff within the DDA context, since all the site development members are on the DDA board. BizDev, we'll meet with them at 10, then they're meeting with us, our staff, at 11, and then our Mr. City Manager will be joining us at noon to talk about what's happening with city and getting John and East
Have
County
you ever
update on
asked
that.
them that, like, everybody up here works and can't make it at those kind of hours?
So we've talked about it,
I mean,
every,
you know.
every community, they do them during the day. So they either do them full days or half days. There haven't been any that they do the evenings, but they do, however, come in the evenings to do the reporting out. So that's how that works. But we have mentioned it, because I know you've mentioned it, so we've mentioned it to them several times, but they don't do the evening evaluation.
Well, I meant like 3:30 to 4:30. I mean, it's just, they always do it where most people can't make it. I mean, that's,
It's definitely at their convenience.
yeah.
Yes, so, but we want the accreditation, so please, somebody come, please. But we would put
So
them.
it's the same week as we're doing the goals and objectives. So
You're-
Monday is going to be 6 o'clock here in the evening for goals and objectives, and that Thursday, the same week, is going to be 9 a.m. at.
Correct, and I'll send a meeting notice out for an Outlook invite for everybody for that one. It would be, yeah, hour max, because business development's coming in at 10 o'clock, so it would be an hour max.
I usually
for
come
that.
in, grip and grin, out 45.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that's going on with us that they are concerned about that I've heard.
As long as there's donuts and coffee, I'll be there, so.
There's always, there's always treats. But then John would come to our meeting in February the 15th.
Yes.
To give us the lowdown and give us the report out to see if we actually did achieve accreditation
Yep.
or not.
Yep, so we'll represent, we'll be there.
I'm gonna slide out, I gotta get ready for a meeting in the morning.
Okay.
Make some copies and stuff, all right? So if you need, just call. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
Doodles.
Okay.
With that, is any questions with respect to the accreditation on the second for the director? Seeing none, moving forward, receipt of regular reports, so let's just do it all at once. So,
In the packet, because I know a lot of people didn't like it when I did the Outlook invite last year, because some people never responded, some people got confused, and some people just plain didn't like it. There's an old school paper schedule in your packet. So if you want to put these things on your calendar, because a lot of people hate the Outlook invites. So there it is. So these are all the dates. As in the past, the November and December would be the second Wednesday rather than the third because of the holidays. We have a week forward. So that is all there. And then this is the accreditation information. We have Fire and Ice this weekend. More fire, less ice, but that's okay.
fire and mud.
Yes, so we have, the county has officially scrapped the tubing hill, the skating rink, snowshoeing, snow pile, cross-country skiing. However, they, I think, are cleaning out the Parks and Rec warehouse because we have a gaga ball pit. We have axe throwing. We have a coloring wall. We have, you name it, they're bringing it. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff coming. So we appreciate our partners at the county. They have a very deep bench when it comes to activities that they can bring out for the families. But fireworks are still good, food trucks. RA sculptures will still be coming because those are already carved and done. Right now, it says it's going to be 33 degrees. We need 32. I need 32. But we have clouds coming, so that's good. Carving competition is happening, cornhole, all kinds of good stuff. And of course, last weekend of the lights and the snowmen.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Hey, we can do everything we can, but we can't control the weather, so.
That's right.
Correct. Yes.
Wish we could. Anything from BizDev or SiteDev?
Business development, they're meeting later because Paul's out of town, so they didn't meet this month yet.
Gotcha. All right. Any other questions from board members? No? All right. With that, thank you for your service this evening. Meeting is adjourned.
Good meeting. Good job.